Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how great hiking around and stacking rocks and talking to people and shaking babies and calling people names than in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me on this fantastic episode of Snail Trail 4x4 is the one and only Mr. Jimmy Fantastic Jet. Mr. Fantastic, how are you?
I am fantastic, thank you.
That's good. That's quite a cocoincidence there.
I know. Well, it just happened to parallel, just worked out so well.
Yeah. Nice, man. Jesus. So are you ready for the heat coming in this weekend?
Oh my gosh. No,
I'm
not.
Why not?
I'm considering getting out of Dodge for sure.
We're getting out of Dodge, going to Ford?
Yep.
Nice.
Probably. I drove the Ford today.
Attaboy.
But
Attaboy.
yeah, it's supposed to, Sunday or Monday, it's supposed to be like
112.
112
Yeah.
or something like that.
It's like Arizona,
Saturday night, the low is supposed to be 76.
Jeez. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, but it'll be Labor Day weekend, and so we're considering like just getting out of the area and going up into the mountains or running away to the coast or doing something.
Nice.
We don't have the kiddo. However, we do have to pick her up like 5 o'clock on Monday. So we do have to come back into the heat on the hot day or something like that. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for the holiday yet. We do have some plans Saturday morning, but then we're free after that. And I'm highly considering just going up into the mountains and getting away from the heat for a while.
Nice.
I did look up the temperature. I was considering heading up towards Pinecrest. And I looked up the temperature up there, and it's still going to be 90 up in the mountains out that way. So, but they've got a nice big lake that I can fall into, and won't be as hot that way. So,
Nice. I'm gonna hang out in a walk-in freezer.
Right. So you're going to Green's house, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to Verdi's. Verdi, I'm coming, buddy. No, it'll be an interesting weekend. I don't have any plans, which is kind of weird. But we'll see what I end up doing. I have some things I'd like to work on, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I know.
Because we haven't talked about it yet. So.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I know I have some aspirations to do some work on Bobcat and do some cleaning of the shop and maybe work on Samantha a little bit. But man, when it's that hot outside, I don't have AC in my shop, and my shop's going to be up into the 90s. It's just going to be brutal. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be feel sorry for everybody having to work out this weekend and in the heat. Sorry, guys. I feel bad for you. So anyways, this is going to be Thursday's episode here. Yes, it is.
We do still have do we? Is Thursday in September?
No, it's not. It's the
on
1st.
The 31st. Wait, what?
It's September 1st, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's Thursday in September.
Yes. September 1st.
We are no longer doing the Affordable Bender giveaway.
No.
So you are officially listening to this episode, and it is too late to get in for the Affordable Bender.
Yes, it is, unfortunately.
Sorry, not sorry. We will announce the winner of it next week.
Yes,
next Thursday.
Probably, yeah.
Probably. We'll have to figure that out.
I believe so. I think that they'll have enough, Patreon will have enough time to give us their numbers by then.
Cool. Let's see. So we'll announce this month, September's giveaway next week as well. And so be on the lookout. Keep those ear holes open. Listen to the podcast and figure out what next, this month's giveaway is.
Yeah. Is that because we need to rummage through and actually decide on what we're giving?
Kind of, yeah. There's a couple of big boxes out there with some good stuff in it. So we just need to figure out what all we're going to be including with it. So
instead of naming specific items, should we just put the umbrella out there?
Sure, go for it.
So pretty much for the last week, we helped Gearwrench Corey. One of the days last week, we helped Gearwrench Corey move. He just moved up the hill a little bit, or up into the valley a little bit, and he had to move his storage locker. And one of the benefits of having a friend that has a storage locker of tools
full of
is
tools.
We get to keep some of them when he's like, oh, I don't need that anymore. I don't need that anymore. And so really we have a few boxes of tools from Gearwrench Corey's storage locker that we're going to hand off to a lucky winner.
Yep.
Not entirely sure what is going to be there, but there is some outstanding
there's some really cool stuff in there.
There's some really, really good stuff in there that I can't believe he's like, yeah, take it. And I'm like, seriously? Like, this is a few $100. Yeah. So we're taking it. We took it, and we're going to pass it on to you guys. We are going to divide it up, and we'll figure out what specifically you guys are going to receive in the next episode. But it's pretty much an allotment from Gearwrench Corey's storage locker.
Yeah.
Of Gearwrench tools that you guys are going to receive.
Yep. The storage locker clean out.
There you go.
Storage locker clean out month.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so we'll get a complete list next Thursday for you guys. Got some more awesome tools coming your way. And that's really, what we like doing here. One of the goals we set up here on the podcast when we started the podcast was to find a way to pass along benefits to listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so here's just another way that we're doing that this month. So let's see. We'll get to that a little bit next week. We have a voicemail. A mysterious person called in. They didn't say their name that I can see, but they have called in the past.
Okay. So you have the number recorded somehow?
It's just listed in the voicemails.
Oh.
So I don't delete any of the voicemails. Oh. So it says this number called in and left a voicemail. Okay. They last called in on May 12th. Wait. Yep, that's the same number. So let's see. You ready to figure out who this is?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm in the middle of episode 324 with Glue Tread. It's a great episode so far, but I need to call out Tyler for his use of the term boofing. I work in emergency medicine and have some experience here. Boofing is street slang for the act of consuming drugs through one's anus, usually coke, heroin, meth, sometimes alcohol, but alcohol consumption through this manner can also be called butt chugging. This route of consumption allows for quicker absorption of the drugs, leading to a faster high. Tyler needs to find a new verb for using a rock as a pivot point. I don't know, perhaps the phrase pivot point? Congratulations. You have learned something you can never unlearn. Have a great day.
Wow.
I never knew that. Boofing. But you can't say pivot point is a noun.
But you can boof a rock.
You can boof a rock. Oh, man. Boof that rock over there, guys.
Oh, that's... I'm going to laugh every time I hear you say that word from now on.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if you're going to use that word again.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. Interesting. So I'm looking up on a Wiktionary. I don't even know if I should read this definition.
Is that like Urban Dictionary?
It sounds like it.
Okay. Can you make the PC version of it? I think we just heard the PC version of it.
It's a little different on you just put in boof on Google. And it's I don't know if I can read it. Urban Dictionary says that it's a knockoff item.
A knockoff item.
Oh, interesting. No,
like a fake.
Urban Dictionary says that it is what the guy that called in said.
Yes. Okay.
A knockoff item or illegitimate imitation of a name brand item. I think that's supposed to be like a spoof, not a boof.
Yes.
Yeah, Urban Dictionary, which is always the credible source for finding definitions of stuff,
right? Yeah.
Says that it is essentially what he said it was on the voicemail. So, interesting.
All right.
I'm going to have to, maybe rethink that term. And I don't know. I'm going to have to find something else.
Yeah, maybe pivot.
Pivot your tire on that rock.
Yeah. Slide.
That's like, I don't know. That's too many words.
Well, the word is pivot. You'd still say, you would have said boof your rock slider on that rock.
No, I would say boof it.
Well, you could say pivot it.
Okay. So you're pivoting the rock then?
Yeah.
That sounds like you're pivoting the rock, not pivoting your vehicle on the rock.
Pivot your slider.
Pivot your slider. That's too many words.
Well, let's make up a phrase that we will check on Urban Dictionary is not used yet.
Yeah, we're going to have to run a contest here for somebody to come up with a phrase that works for that. So leave us a voicemail if you have a good phrase to describe pivoting your tire around a rock or sliding your tire across a rock surface in order to use it as a pivot point.
Sounds good. And now I know why this gentleman did not leave his name.
Right? Thank you. I feel enlightened now. Anyways, so that was our voicemail. Your random thought definition of the day for everybody out there.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know.
Maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I did know that was a thing so that people could get high faster. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know the name.
I didn't either. Yeah. It's a good thing to know.
Right. Yeah. I'll make sure to store that away for our future use.
Perfect. All right. So now that we're in September here with this episode, we get to go back and relive a really fun event that happens every year called Sierra Trek.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it was an interesting event. It was a really well done event. I thought that, everything that went on from the outside looking in, you would never think that there were really any issues.
Yeah, I didn't know about any issues until after the fact. Mm-hmm. So that's a bonus.
And honestly, looking on the inside, looking in, there was not as many issues as there typically is leading up to the big issue with the event is all the logistics of getting porta potties, getting showers, getting refrigerated trucks, getting all the food, getting all the alcohol in the bar, getting everything to sustain upwards of 1,000 people at a lake. Getting it all up into Medow Lake is really the big issue, right? And all of that went great this year, I think. And so huge kudos to John and Rene Allen, who we've had on the podcast before. So huge kudos to them. They were the chair this year for Sierra Trek in making all that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. A very excellent event, smooth running, a lot of fun. I also want to give a shout out, and unfortunately I don't know their names, but to the property owners of
the Gleesons.
The Gleesons, thank you. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Gleesons. I highly doubt they listen to this, but they are a outstanding family that actually privately owns that chunk of land that the event is on.
Yep.
And allows Cal4wheel to rent it out and have this event. So thank you so much to you guys for opening your land so that we could have this event to continue to fundraise for Cal4wheel.
100%. If it wasn't for the Gleesons, it wasn't for a lot of people, but especially the Gleesons, Sierra Trek would not exist.
Yeah. Or at least at that location.
It wouldn't exist on Fordyce. Yeah. It might, I don't know. They might be able to run it down in Pierce OHV.
Maybe.
But that's, it wouldn't be the same event at all.
Not at all.
By any means. So huge, thank you and shout out to the Gleesons. Hopefully you'll start listening to the show eventually and you'll hear that and you'll be like, oh, thanks guys. So Sierra Trek, what is Sierra Trek, Jimmy? I know we've talked a little bit about it, so let's give a overarching thing to it.
Let's see. So Sierra Trek is an event that is held up at Medow Lake at what I would assume or call the top of Fordyce Creek Trail. Mm-hmm. It's a fundraiser event for Cal4wheel. And so I don't know what the percentage is, but a vast majority of your dollars going into and signing up and participating and hanging out at the bar and tipping and buying food and, drinks and supporting the raffle and, your meals and everything goes back to Cal4wheel. Mm-hmm. It's held it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yep.
And
there's technically some runs that start Wednesday afternoon, but that's kind of like an overnight SUV run.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of cool to be on if you ever get the chance to. The main majority of the runs all start Thursday.
Got it. Mm-hmm. And then, it's a lot of fun. There's all kinds of things going on. As you heard in the last episode, I interviewed 8 or 10 different vendors that were out there. Mm-hmm. That you can walk around and talk to all these vendors and get a better understanding of what they provide and why they're out there. And then there's a bar and a stage and some singing and dancing that goes on at night and a whole bunch of things that happen. So it's a lot of fun. and an outstanding area with one of the best trails in Northern California, if not all of California.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a beauty about the trail. There's definitely a beauty and this, I don't know, a sense of grandeur when you're standing out at Medow Lake and camping out at Medow Lake in general. And then Fordyce itself is, the toughest trail we have here in Northern California. But it's unique in the sense that in terms of tough trails throughout the country, it's the toughest granite, high Sierra granite style trail, right? So you get these gorgeous granite views. You're next to a river the whole time, Fordyce Creek, and there's some good camping on the trail for sure. The spots tend to be pretty limited.
Yeah,
camping along the trail, so you got to get there early to get them. But with Sierra Trek, all the camping happens up at Medow Lake.
Yep. Correct. Unless you're working a hill, right? Then those guys are camping on trail. There's also, we talk a lot about Fordyce, which is an extreme off-road trail, but there's, there's Bear Valley OHV that's just not too far from there, which is a moderate trails and a good, SUV run. You will probably get some pinstriping, but it's definitely possible in a stock vehicle that you can go and wheel out there. There's also a lot of history up in that area with gold mining, and there's a I believe Dolly talked about it on a Wheeling Wine and Whiskey episode recently, that she was able to go out on the tour led by, I can't remember.
Oh, Jim Bramham.
Yeah, Jim Bramham's historical tour out there, and I didn't know it was an overnight adventure.
Oh, I didn't either.
Yeah, so they did an overnight thing, and they went on this really long drive out in the area, learning all about the area and all about gold mining and the history in the area.
See, that's one thing. Jim Bramham does a phenomenal job at those historical tours. He does one at Winter Fun Fest up through the Allegheny and Gold Rush area and around Allegheny, and then he does another one for Sierra Trek and talking about Summit City and everything that happened up at Summit City and Medow Lake in that area. And I've always wanted to go on them. I don't seem to be able to make that happen each year.
It's going to be, I think, a goal of mine next year to probably go on that. I'm going to try to sign up early, get in there and go on that tour because it sounds phenomenal. And, I can wheel Fordyce Creek Trail almost anytime I want. So, hitting it with other people or guiding is something that I can do, but I don't get to go on the historical tour anytime I want. So I'm going to try to set that as a priority for next year to go out on that trail run. I would love to see if we can get Jim on the podcast.
That would be cool. Have you heard him talk before?
Never.
Oh my God. If you want to hear a voice for radio. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So he would be very similar on radio sounding as Merlin. So awesome. it would be a phenomenal, I think, episode with Jim Bramham because he just has that really deep radio husky voice kind of thing.
Yeah. What we should do is just go on the tour with him and ride in his rig and put a mic in front of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Or have something recording the radio the whole time as he's giving out the stuff on the radio.
Be an 8-hour long podcast.
Right. But so there's a historical tour. Bear Valley was a big hit this year. The Bear Valley OHV trip.
Excellent.
Gold Hills Posse. Big shout out to them. They stepped up and kind of took over leading that trip, and it went really well. And they had I want to say they had 30 to 40 rigs on that trip, which is really cool because that's almost more than what they had on the Fordyce runs.
Nice.
Yeah, which means it's a nice popular trip.
Yeah.
There's also Signal Peak.
Oh yeah, forgot about that one.
Yeah, that they
easy
go
way or hard way, both ways.
I think they did. They go up one way, come down the other way, if I remember correctly. And so there's a lot to do. There's hanging out in camp. There's kind of little activities that go on throughout the day at camp. There's music playing in camp all day. You get to hang around, check out, and talk to all the vendors all day long. If you don't want to go out on a run. There's just a lot. You can go swimming in the lake. You can bring a stand-up paddleboard to go across and play around in the lake, all those lake activities. So it's a really great venue, great event to go to. And I got up there without too many issues. I just got up there late.
One sec. I wanted to say that it was cool this year because you might not have known this because you're down on the trail a lot. but I think it's the CalStar helicopter came in, and they gave a tour for the younger kids of the helicopter and the medical side
that's
and
cool.
stuff like that. So that was really cool this year, which was a new thing that hasn't happened before. Because the helicopter came in and everybody's like, what's going on? The helicopter's here. I'm like, nope, they're giving a tour of the helicopter. You can go and check it out and get a better understanding of the systems and everything that they have in the helicopter. But it was funny because everybody was freaking out. But
I was freaking out.
Yeah. Were you?
Yeah, because nobody told me the helicopter is coming in. I'm in charge of running the communications.
Right. Yeah.
And so all I heard was, we need all the landing zone crew to the LZ immediately. And that's all I heard. And I was like, is everything okay? And there was no response back. And I was like, okay.
Interesting. So that's what was going on. The helicopter was coming in to land so that they could give a tour and talk about the helicopter and talk about
that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's much better, because I still, like, somebody just said, yeah, they were running a demonstration of the landing. And I was like, okay. Like, all right, whatever.
So anyway,
nice.
so we got off the glue tread trip and you pretty much bombed home, packed, and drove up there on Wednesday.
Yep. So I got up to camp about midnight 30 on Wednesday. Sorry, I guess Thursday morning, technically.
Right. Yeah.
So Wednesday night, Thursday morning, I got up there about midnight 30. I brought my camping trailer with me, and I had enough time before the glue tread trip to set up connect the batteries to the solar charger and the solar panels and everything. So I was like, well, cool. Oh, it's going to be a test, I guess, of the electrical system. And so I set it up out in the field next to the lake. And it's so nice having that trailer, because you literally just park it, level it, and then you're good to go. And leveling it takes 30 seconds, maybe.
Nice. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. I'm good to go for the week now. My camp is set up in less than a minute. Crawled into bed, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and started setting up all the communications booth over in camp. And so I told everybody that I would have that set up by 6:30 for people to come by and grab radios if they needed them. And so I was up at 5:30, I think, in the morning.
Wow. So not a lot of sleep.
Not a whole lot of sleep, but enough to make it through the day. And got the communications booth set up, got the Morphlate booth set up. And then once Morphlate Sean showed up, he took over the Morphlate booth, and the event moved me back into the trees, back behind the bar and registration booth, I believe.
Right. Yep.
So I was kind of back tucked away there where people didn't know where I was. And so apologies if anybody was trying to find me on Thursday. I got moved back behind everything, which is good for communications, but bad for business. I need to figure out
communication business or Morphlate business.
Morphlate and snail trail business.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got to figure out how to balance that next year.
Yeah.
Although
well, you had your employee for Morphlate side.
I did, but it sounded, I got feedback that there was multiple people coming up to the Morphlate booth and disappointed that I wasn't there.
Well, you had another job.
I did have another job, but my main priority should be the job that's paying the bills. So if we can't find a balance on that, Sierra Trek might have to find a different communications person in the future. So I think I did find a decent balance to it Thursday and Friday, Saturday, but we'll get into that. Okay. And it was unintentional. It was unplanned, but Thursday went really well. You know, there was no big issues on Thursday. All the runs came in just fine. All the runs had good communications. All the runs made it up. Everything made it pretty much back into camp at a decent enough hour. There's, it seems like always the full trail Fordyce run comes in late after dinner anyways, but they came in before midnight, which was, I think, a win.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long day.
It's a very long day, considering they also start, I think, on trail at 6 or 6:30.
Right.
Which is, that's another reason why I won't do the Fordyce trail with Sierra Trek. It's just, it's a 15-hour day, 16-hour day sometimes. So
I've considered wheeling in that way on my way to the event on like Wednesday. Just get up to, early, get up to the trail like 10 and just go to Medow Lake through the trail, up the trail.
Yeah, if I was going to come in that way, I would go up to Committee and then go up 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So, but there's multiple ways to do it. It's a nice thing about it. So Thursday was great. It wasn't too busy in camp. All the vendors were pretty much told to come in on Friday rather than Thursday, so that they can get the whole vendor area kind of set up and have a little bit more time to draw out the booth space on the ground kind of thing for the vendors to hang out in. Thursday was just pretty much the Fordyce trip, and I want to say there was a river run Thursday, but there wasn't a whole lot of runs going on Thursday.
Okay.
But we did get reports on Thursday that the bottleneck of the trail was Winch Hill 4.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
And so we were, and there was also some issues with hecklers at Winch Hill 5 on Thursday that a law enforcement had to get involved with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that would just happen to be because law enforcement was coming up the trail with the Thursday run like they do. They come up through Thursday and then hang out and have dinner at camp. And so Joe Chavez, who's the OHV, the head of OHV Recreation for Tahoe National Forest, came up with a couple of deputies and the Tahoe National Forest Jeep. And there was reports that Winch Hill 4 was a disaster zone kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
They were having a lot of issues getting vehicles up Winch Hill 4. The reports that were said was just that there was a lot of winching going on. I think they had, including with the river run on Thursday, I want to say they had something around 70 to 75 rigs come through Winch Hill 4. And they said that they winched 45 to 50 of them.
Dang. So
yeah.
Over half.
Over half, easy.
Shoot.
And
that bottleneck slows everything down immensely.
A lot. It
Yes.
slows everything down. I give it to Winch Hill 4 crew. They're the Santa Rosa 4x4 club. They ended up buying a 15,000 pound Badlands winch from Harbor Freight and strapping it to the tree up at the top in the middle of Winch Hill 4.
Okay.
And then powered it off of somebody's rig parked next to the tree.
Interesting.
So
I didn't pay attention to that when I went down there.
Yeah, it was kudos to them for coming up with that, because the tree is a phenomenal anchor point.
Absolutely.
And they just put a big ass, like 20,000, 30,000 pound strap on the tree, and then had the winch sitting in a winch bumper strapped to the tree. So they had this nice anchor point with 100 feet of winch line right at the top of the winch hill that almost went all the way to the bottom. So, but kudos to them for coming up with that idea, because it did make things a lot safer at that point, having that solid of an anchor point there, and they could just swap out the vehicles if a battery was getting low or alternators weren't keeping up. So that was really cool to see. However, I had a theory that they weren't either stacking rocks properly, or they weren't resetting the hill properly, or they weren't setting up the hill properly in the first place. Something was going on, because there's ways to run Winch Hill 4 where, yeah, there's some pretty big holes, but there's a lot of fill rock at the bottom of Winch Hill 4. There's just this big, huge fill rock field. So I was like, they're not doing something correctly with preparing the hill or running the hill. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay.
And so we were also having a little bit of issues with the repeater. The repeater I set up in the same spot as last year, with a better antenna.
Okay.
And so I was like, we should, in theory, have better signal to camp. And we were getting like no signal to camp.
Interesting.
And I was like, what is going on? And so we couldn't figure it out. I was like, something had to have happened to the antenna, that it fell over or it got compromised somehow. I know it rained in between. It stormed pretty good in between the time when I set up the repeater and the time that we were using the repeater. So it's maybe water got into an electrical connection on the antenna somewhere. I don't know. So Friday, I decided Friday morning I was going to hike down to the repeater and check out what's going on. And so I did that. The PG&E guys at Fordyce Dam, as I was hiking over the dam, were very confused. They're like, where'd you come from?
Right.
But Morflate Sean went with me.
Okay.
And we hiked all the way down to the repeater. And at the time that we got to the repeater, the river run on Friday was getting down to committee, the bottom of committee.
Got it. Okay.
And so checked over the repeater. Everything was just fine. So I wasn't sure what was going on really. But one interesting thing that I found out from my hike later in the day was that we were blasting the canyon with the repeater. So like from Winch Hill 1 up to the top of Winch Hill 5, we had full quieting on the repeater. Beautiful radio signal.
Full quieting?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means there's no background white noise on your signal.
Oh. Okay.
So, clear,
you weren't,
crisp, clear, strong signal.
Okay, so you weren't overpowering people. That's when you first said it. That's the way I took it.
No.
Is you were blanketing over everybody, and so people couldn't communicate because the repeater was out there. That's not the point.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was running great. It just wasn't getting to camp.
Yes. It was blasting the canyon better than we've ever had in the past, I think.
Nice. Okay. That's a bonus.
Yep. But the signal was not getting to camp.
Yeah.
So I was like,
a negative.
Well, okay. I guess this specific antenna just brings the lobes down. And so it's blasting into the canyon rather than getting up and over the hill to camp, the hill at Winch Hill 5. So, I was like, well, okay, well, that means because I have AT&T on my cell phone, I still had communications back to camp using texting. And so I sat there, I ended up hiking up from Committee all the way up to Winch Hill 4. And once I got to Winch Hill 4, I started looking at the hill, just kind of observing and watching how the guys were running the hill. And I was like, they're not stacking rocks at all. Like there's some pretty freaking deep ass holes on Winch Hill 4 and they're not doing anything about the holes except just winching people through them all.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's our bottleneck for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also the argument. There's an argument about moving rocks.
What's the argument about moving rocks?
You shouldn't.
For an event that you're having to pull 80 people through the trail?
Well, that's the argument, right? I mean, you shouldn't need to move rocks. If they can't make the trail, they shouldn't be out there on the trail.
I guess that is an argument, but I would disagree with it. So
I would disagree with it somewhat for an event, but I think that to some extent, like I was out on the Rubicon a few weeks ago, and it was the easiest I've ever driven it because every single hole was filled because they filled it for Jeepers and Jeep Jamboree. I think that's silly. It's like, why do you need to fill the trail so that, people can get through it?
How were all those holes this week when we went through it?
They were more torn up for sure.
So my argument with rock fill is that rock fills keep the trail from getting destroyed. It makes the trail a little easier, but it also makes it that, people are just going to spit the rocks out anyways.
Right. So why put them back in there?
Because it keeps the trail from getting torn up.
But the turning of rocks also tears up a trail.
Not as much as turning of tires.
I'll agree with that. But
yeah.
But it does. There's still an erosion issue. If you're going to, either way, there's more of an erosion issue if we're going down to an erosion. There's more of an erosion issue for tires than there are for rocks, but there's still an erosion issue.
Yeah, but there's an understanding that there's always going to be an erosion issue. If you want to get rid of an erosion issue, then you get rid of the trail.
Right. Or concrete it.
And then, what's the point? There's no point anymore. So rock fill, especially for an event, keeps the trail damage to a minimum and also keeps the event moving. So they were not stacking rocks at all for the event. They were just winching people through. And as people are winching, they're spinning their tires and digging the holes deeper and deeper, which is just making the job harder and harder. Right. So I got there and I just kind of showed up after watching for about 15, 20 minutes. I started stacking rocks and throwing rocks in the holes and filling the holes. And they were just like, who are you? What are you doing here? I was like, hey, sorry, I'm Tyler. I'm the communications guy. I'm just down here because I had to go down, check out the repeater, and I'm hiking back up to camp and saw that you guys have some big holes here, and I'm just kind of helping fill them so we can keep traffic moving through here. And they're like, okay. I was like, okay, cool. So I just sat there and hung out. And then after a while, they had me take over the bottom half of the hill because there was a vehicle broken there with a broken steering box and kind of on the side of the trail right there from the river run earlier in the day. And this was
Friday.
Friday.
Yes.
Yep. And so he was very, very, I mean, it was just a really tight squeeze there.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of big rocks there that you have to pick the lines very carefully with. And so I stacked some rocks, and every time a vehicle spit the rock out, I would restack the rock. So every 3 to 4 vehicles or so, I'd restack them so that everybody could take the same line due to the vehicle being stuck there with the broken steering box. And so I took care of that all day long, which was a lot of fun because we had some listeners go through. And so I got to say hi to people and talk to people about Snail Trail 4x4, goof around with some of the listeners coming through while we were waiting on the upper part of the hill to winch people through.
Got it.
So we were getting now a backlog at my section of the hill, getting people through faster than the top section. And so after we started getting a backlog there, I started walking up to the top section of the hill and throwing rocks in their holes. And so it just kind of became this thing where eventually they were like, they're just going to spit the rocks out again. And I'm like, yeah, but that's why we are here. That's why we're here on this hill, to keep traffic flowing and keep traffic flowing safely so that they're not breaking their rigs, so that they're not destroying the trail. That is our job here.
Right.
And so, yeah, they're going to spit out the rocks, but that's why we're here, to put them back in so that we can get everyone through safely and without destroying the trail. And they never fully grasped that concept. And so I had to, whenever I got traffic backed up at the bottom of the hill, I would walk up to the top of the hill and refill all their holes for them. And then we would get 5 or 6 vehicles that were able to get through without winching. And then the rocks would spin out and they'd start winching people again. And I'm like, you guys just refill the rocks. It's so much quicker. And so that was pretty much my whole day at Winch Hill 4. I came in to camp, I don't know, it was 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that. And apparently the crew that runs the showers, the Sierra Treasure Hunters, they give awards out to themselves. Like, they watch people come into camp, and they will nominate people just, amongst themselves for dirtiest person that needs a shower.
Yeah.
And I won the award on Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, my Friday was really low key. So I had a steering line bust right as I got home on Bobcat. So then I pretty much took Thursday. I was going to drive up Thursday, but then I said, you know what, I'm just going to come up on Friday with my Tacoma, Charlotte. So I spent some time doing snail armor on Thursday, packing and organizing myself and relaxing, and then bombed up there on Friday morning after I took the kiddo to school. Got in like at 11 or 12. Hung out, found a spot to park. I mean, in our normal camping area was very full. And parked in I parked in a spot that was saved for somebody else originally. And then I walked into town and I gave Chris from Wheeling Wine and Whiskey my keys in case that person showed up. I was like, hey, I'm going to go into town, see what's going on in there. Town being the vendor area kind of. But if this guy shows up, move my truck.
Yeah.
And so he's like, cool. So Chris was just staying around at camp. Later, I find out that Wheeling Wine and Whiskey stole my truck. And he drove, both of them got into a Toyota and used my truck to take their stuff into town to make their booth and, carry a bunch of supplies into camp.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Don't both those guys have like big old manly Ford and Dodge trucks?
They do.
That they can use to tote stuff around with?
Yes, but they both had camper shells or campers in the back of them that were set up so that they couldn't move their vehicles.
They couldn't move their vehicles, and thus they had no way to put up their booth.
No. They didn't want to tote it themselves.
Oh yeah, they're lazy. It's like that. So
they drove a Toyota.
Nice.
There's photo evidence of this. They got into my rig and drove it. They didn't realize it was a manual. Yeah. But they both know how to drive manual, so it worked out.
Nice.
I was hanging out in camp, relaxing and going back and forth from the trailhead eventually.
So hold on real quick. I don't know if you caught it, but they kind of gave us a hard time about having to use their microphones.
Yes.
even though we had our own microphones.
Yes.
But
that's true. And the thing was that was Saturday.
Okay.
But if you want to jump to that real quick. So the thing was, you were down on trail.
Yep.
And I didn't know you had the microphones, nor did I know where they were.
Yep.
Plus, I think were they in the Ferd?
They were in the Ferd, which was now at this time down at the brothel.
Right. So you not only did you have them, but they weren't in camp or in town, air quotes, right? So I asked them to borrow theirs.
Yeah.
Right. Which I don't think they used at any point, any period when we were there. But they gave us sort of a hard time of using their equipment when they actually used ours too.
Yeah. Interesting how that happens that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And they didn't tell both sides of the story like we do.
No, I know. That seems like a common theme with them about not telling both sides of stories.
Yeah. They drove a Toyota and to take their stuff into town. They used our equipment where we asked to borrow their equipment for a day. One mic and one cord.
Yeah.
So I could run around and do the interviews.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I don't think they brought their stuff up, which we did, but I didn't know where it was because Tyler wasn't around and his truck wasn't anywhere close to us. So yeah. So
you could have stolen the buggy. Could have stolen Jason's buggy to go get the microphone.
I should have stolen the buggy to go get the microphone. Yeah. Then we would all been even.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways.
Sorry, I just wanted to point that out.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
So about, I don't know what it was, 3:00-ish. I'm back at camp on Friday. And I'm talking to Jason. And he's like, hey, I've got to go meet up with Glenn Plake. And he's got a steering box for...
Yes.
The broken Jeep that was at WINCH 4. And so we drove down and met up with Glenn. He gave us the steering box. We talked with him for a little while. Then we strapped it down to Jason's buggy. We drove out, and our goal was to get between the river run and the full run.
Yeah.
And hopefully we are going to hit this window, this gap, and get through.
There was no gap.
They caught both those runs caught each other, and there was just a massive, if there was a gap, it was at WINCH 5 because we were able to drive down that no problem.
Okay.
But as soon as we got down to what's it called, the cistern, which there's some old mining equipment down there. We just hit a backlog of cars. Like just as I started walking down the trail, and I'm like, there's 10 to 15 cars here, just all waiting to pass.
Yeah.
So, and there was a Jeep in that area that broke their like shock tab or something. And so they just undid the shock and took it off, and then they continued on. So at that point, Jason's like, you got to carry that steering box down to 4. And he's like, you're the youngest. You got to carry that steering box down. And I'm like, Samurai James is younger than me.
Yeah.
He should carry it. And I guess Samurai James has a bad back. And so I was like, fine, I'll carry it. So yeah, I put it on my shoulder, and I don't know, I was like halfway between 5 and 4.
Way to be a team player.
Yeah, thanks.
Letting people use your truck, carrying the steering boxes for people. Man, look
down
at
to
you.
A Jeep. So yeah, toted that down. And at that point, I didn't know it at the time, but or I did know it at the time, but I wanted to get back and help, but I don't know if you can consider it my cousin, but the assistant's cousin was working the CalStar booth.
Oh, nice.
Right. And so we ran into each other and we talked for a while, and I was like, where are you staying? And she like had no idea where she was even to camp. She just drove up, And so I said, I've got there's plenty of space down by us. You can probably throw your tent up in a corner out there, and we're not going to have a problem. And so I was concerned that it was getting close to 5 o'clock at that point, and I wanted to get back to make sure that she wasn't closing her booth and not going to, go anywhere. So I wanted to, get up there to help her out. So I really just got down there and I handed the guy the steering box, and I saw you for a split second. And I said, I'm sorry, I've got to run.
Yeah.
And so I dropped that all off. I said, bye. And I hiked up the mountain.
Hi, bye.
Hi, bye. Exactly. And I hiked back up to Jason in his buggy, and we jumped in the buggy and cruised back into camp.
Nice.
And so, yeah. And then I helped her. We found a spot sort of between two campers out there. And we just put up she has like a little 2-man tent. We just popped it real quick and
nice.
set it up there. And yeah. And then we hung out by the fire for a while that night and went to bed.
Nice.
So you got up there about 8 and then were able to take a nice hot shower.
I didn't take a shower.
Oh, no. You didn't. You won the award, but you didn't accept it.
They didn't tell me about it until the next morning.
Oh,
so yeah, it's an award around themselves. Like they don't actually give you anything. They just make fun of dirty people. That's what the award is for.
That's silly. Why don't they give those dirty people a free shower?
That would be a cool thing, in my opinion.
So they just are like, oh, that guy was super dirty. Yeah, you remember him? Yeah, he was dirty. He wins the award for today, dirtiest person.
Yep. We need to go try and get $5 out of him to have him take a shower.
I almost want to give them $15 so for every day they can give that award out to somebody. Award out,
right? So I scarfed down my dinner, and that's the cool thing about the dinner crew is that they will stay open to make sure that the incoming people coming off the trails get a nice hot dinner.
Absolutely. They stay open till the last rig comes up and grabs dinner.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And kudos to the dinner crew.
They have, in my opinion, the dinner crew has the hardest job out there at Sierra Trek. So
quite possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might. Well, they don't work the longest, but they might work the latest.
They work the longest. They're up at 4 a.m. to get breakfast ready.
Well, is there a
4
different...
and 5 a.m.
So the cooking crew.
The kitchen crew is the chairperson, a co-chair, and then kind of a couple of key helpers that help the whole time. So there's 3 to 5 people that are up and working every single meal.
Right. Those people, for sure.
Yeah.
But typically there's like a bunch of people that come in for breakfast and then don't help for dinner.
Yeah.
Right. Or some people that help for dinner don't help for breakfast.
Yeah.
Or there's people that might help for both. And then the crew or the committee that runs the whole thing that works the whole time.
Yeah.
So, sure.
Yep. And so, they got hot meals for everybody, which is cool. I scarfed down my dinner, went and took a bath in the lake, and then pretty much went and passed out because it was an early-ish day. Not too bad. But I did a lot of hiking that day through a lot of really dense manzanita. And it's ended up working the winch hill all day and running communications. So, but having the communications there at Winch Hill 4 worked out great.
Interesting.
Because I had communication with the entire canyon on radio, and then I had communication with camp on the phones.
Via cell phone.
And so I was kind of acting like a relay while working Winch Hill 4 to keep track of everything going on and let everybody know what was going on in the canyon back up at camp.
Okay.
And I thought that actually worked out pretty damn well. So I'm curious to hear, as the event is over now, how the feedback was about communications and how it all worked. So
while I was in town, I realized that there was some people that were trying to find you and they were looking for your booth and you weren't there. And then I said, the few people that I saw do it, I said, oh, he's on Winch Hill 4. I didn't know that you could get in contact with you via cell phone. So I just said, like, if I can try to relay a message, I will.
Yeah.
But, most people are like, no, I just needed to ask him something or whatever. So I think that with the booth, the communications booth there in town, but nobody there manning it, and you down on the trail, I think it just sort of confused people that never went down on trail.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look into that because I made it very clear to all of the committee chairs that cell phone is the main form of communication this year.
Okay.
And so if there was other people that didn't understand that or didn't know that, any volunteers, then they need to talk to the committee chairs.
Yeah, I don't even know if they were volunteers, right? I just know that there were some people that were...
Gotcha.
They probably just wanted to say hello.
Oh. And see, that's kind of the problem, though, of I don't know.
Well, they should have gone on a river run.
Yeah, right. Yeah, people that went on the river and got to say hi.
Exactly.
Anyway, so Friday was cool. It ended up working out well. Saturday... we ended up having some issue on the river run. Oh, I was helping run the river run. That was it. Because the group that originally had signed up to run the river run, they bailed on the event about 2 weeks prior to the event.
Really?
Yep.
Wasn't Samurai James leading that run?
He was the one who picked it up.
Oh. Got it.
Yep. And so he kind of picked it up last minute. Because the other people had to bail last minute. And so we just kind of put together this random crew of people that were there and were going to be at Trek in order to help run the river run on Saturday.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm setting up the communications to, in theory, be able to run comms from anywhere in the area. So let's run. I don't have a rig, but I can run passenger or hike and spot people the whole time and run comms. And so that's what I did Saturday, was helped with the river run, get everybody down to the river. Except the main issue we had was that Winch Hill 4 was not out at Winch Hill 4 when the river run was going down Winch Hill 4.
Oh, dang. Okay.
So I ended up staying. Gravity was the main way to get down Winch Hill 4. And it doesn't work too well for CJ5s on 32-inch tires.
Well, yeah. Maybe a 32-inch tire CJ5 shouldn't be on the river run.
I 100% agree, and in theory, they should not have been. So I'm not sure how they got on the run, but they were on the run anyways. And they're such a short wheelbase and such small tires that they got high centered on the ledge in Winch Hill 4.
Right.
And they ended up kind of spinning a little bit like a top. And so they were wedged sideways on the ledge, high centered in Winch Hill 4. And I was like, hey, you know what? This is a bad spot. Just hang out here. The person that was in front of them took off. And so I was like, let me just call back down to the group. We'll have somebody come back up, winch you to spin you back around, and then winch you off of the high center. He goes, no, I think I can still got it. And I was like, no, just hang out. Like, we're fine. Just gonna chill here for a couple minutes and get winched you off. And he goes, no, I got it. And he put it in reverse and tried to back up, completely bound up everything and snapped his front drive shaft and the front passenger U-joint.
Oh, geez.
On his Dana 30. Mm-hmm. So, and the front drive shaft on stock CJ5s is like an inch diameter.
Are they?
I was like,
Tiny.
how, what? Who made this design? What the hell?
Jeep.
And the Jeep did, apparently.
Yeah.
And so, it's like an inch and a half, or inch and a half diameter, OD, outside diameter for a drive shaft.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
It's solid though.
Is it? I don't think it is.
It's paper thin.
Yeah, dude. Once I saw that, I was like, what? Who made that into a 4-wheel drive vehicle? Anyways, so he snapped it and then he's dead in the water, only rear wheel drive. And the Jeep finally got up there to winch him sideways and off of the spot. We got him down to the rock fill area at the bottom, into a level spot off to the side. And I hung out with him all day.
Oh.
So
nice of you.
I bailed out of the river run, myself and one of the other guys, his name is Morgan, who I was riding passenger with, bailed out of the river run and stayed with him to make sure that he got everything repaired all day. So what we did with him was we removed his front drive shaft and sent it back up to camp to get welded. And it came back down later in the day. And then we pulled his front passenger drive shaft and stuck a rag in his axle seal to keep it from leaking. And then once the drive shaft came back, he had 3-wheel drive.
Yep.
But it took all day long to get all that worked out and do all that.
Wow.
And so the river run coming back up Friday, I stayed at Winch Hill 4 and the Winch Hill 4 crew showed up before the river run got back up there, and business as usual. We got some rocks stacked and kept traffic moving through pretty well on Saturday. Now that we were actually stacking rocks and filling the holes rather than just struggling with the holes kind of thing.
Right.
And so traffic moved along good. After the river run got through, we had the CJ all wrapped up. So he kind of hopped in behind the river run. And there's no big main run on Saturday. There's no full trail run on Saturday. So it's just the river run. And after he hopped in line, then the Winch Hill 4 crew hopped in line and went back up to camp. That was really the only big thing on Saturday. And then after that, once you get back into camp, we had everybody back up by 3 o'clock, I think.
Nice. That's actually really good.
It was pretty good. 3:30, somewhere around there. So there was, an hour and a half before dinner was served. And then after dinner was the raffle.
Yes.
Yeah. So my whole day Saturday was just pretty much hanging out at Winch Hill 4, guiding people through my lower section and making sure the CJ had everything repaired. So it was a good day.
Did he have all the tools he needed?
He did. He was very self-sufficient, except for having a welder.
Right.
So, but he was very self-sufficient, very knowledgeable. He knew how to take it all apart and put it all back together. And so like we didn't really have to help him too much with a lot of stuff. We just kind of helped him to be there in case he did need anything.
Got it.
So I was able to stay in contact with camp to make sure and figure out where his drive shaft was and get his drive shaft up there and get it all welded up. So,
nice. That's cool.
How was your Saturday?
Saturday for me was good. I stayed up at camp in town for the vast majority of the day. That's the day I also borrowed the mic from Wheeling Wine and Whiskey and ran around to all the booths and did a bunch of interviews.
Nice.
I was doing that at like noon, but it took me until almost 4 to just, because people were off doing things. And whenever I went to a booth, sometimes there's people there or not, or somebody there didn't want to talk and said somebody else should. So I was like bouncing around all these booths just trying to get the interview. Like the bar interview, they were super busy until dinner started, right? And then everybody went into the dinner line, and then I was able to get the interview with the bar. So, and nice. I didn't ever get the interview with the restaurant or the food
kitchen
court
crew?
kitchen. No, well not the kitchen so much, the food
the snack bar,
the
gotcha.
food booth. Yeah, because when I was walking by them, it was like noon and they were swamped, But yeah, that was the day I ran around, did a bunch of interviews, hung out and ate dinner and hung out until pretty much the raffle was like a few items in, and Jason was up there talking, and I was like, I can't deal with that. So I actually took off that night and went home and just was able to relax and have another full day at home instead of a drive home sometime on Sunday and immediately go back to sort of work on a Monday. So that was kind of nice. I got home semi late, but I just took a shower and crawled into bed and woke up with the family. So that was a bonus.
Nice. Yeah. So you missed the whole raffle, huh?
I missed a chunk of it.
A chunk of it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
There was the raffle was really cool. It was done really well. Jason got to be MC.
Yep.
And John was kind of mini MC.
Okay.
So they ended up having 2 microphones set up, and Jason was up on the stage and John was kind of on the ground in front of the stage. And they were just completely playing off each other the whole time. Oh, fun. Kind of cracking jokes or like making fun of each other at times, or like adding in little tidbits here and there about stuff. So it was really cool. I thought it was really good from an audience perspective of them doing it that way this year,
nice.
Rather than just one person running everything.
Right.
And it's kind of almost like now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of analogous to podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's not fun to listen to one person sit down and talk to a wall.
No.
But if you get that other person in there to banter off of and stuff, it's a lot more fun to listen to. And so I thought that was great, having them both there during the raffle doing that stuff. So
good. Yeah, I heard that I believe it was Jason asked the question, and he was giving out a prize for when was the last time that Toyota made a solid front axle.
Yeah.
And they said 1985.
And that was the quote unquote correct answer.
Correct, but it's somewhat incorrect. And because that was the last time for a mini truck or a pickup
or
right?
4Runner.
Or 4Runner was 1985. However, Toyota
in the United States.
Yes, correct. And that's how I was going to go there after that.
Yeah.
But in what is it? The FJ80 still had a solid front axle to 97?
Yep, through 97.
And then I was going to say, and they're still making solid front axles outside of the United States to this day.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I guess my answer would be 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, they should stay away from Toyota content, in my opinion.
Or ask a professional.
Professional. So. No, I was actually in the outhouse. I was using the bathroom when they asked that question. I was like, no, I can't. I need to answer. Because I was immediately thinking, everybody's going to say 1985, and that's the wrong answer.
Yeah.
but I couldn't get out there before he moved on to the next question.
Right.
I was trying to run out there and be like, it's 97.
You're right. That's fun. So that was interesting to hear. So, but I'm glad to hear that it was entertaining and fun for having the banter between both of them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. We did a round. We lasered around for Fordyce.
Yes.
And it wasn't out of any special tree from the Fordyce Trail. It was just a nice piece of redwood tree that actually first gen Mike's dad donated.
Oh, cool.
So I had this beautiful redwood heartwood in it, which was really cool. So we donated that one. That round went for, I think, $200.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then we also donated a big sluice tree round.
Oh, cool.
To Cal4, and they used it for the Sierra Trek event. And that one did a live auction for $350, I think, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. As I was creating the design for the Fordyce round, it started making me think we could make a round for any trail, a design for any trail, and people could purchase that round with that trail's design on it, their favorite trail, right? And then we can make a drop-down box that says which nonprofit organization, trail advocacy org, do you want the funds to go to?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So I'm thinking about moving down that road to go down that road of creating more designs for different trails and see how that goes.
That's interesting. I like that idea. Yeah, that's pretty fun. I think that I think kind of the hard part would be eventually just getting rounds.
Yeah, I think because it's not a lot of labor hours to laser the rounds. It's a lot of labor hours to create the design, but once the design's created, it's like whatever.
It's done. Yeah.
So the majority of the labor hours in this project would be sourcing the wood, cutting it and planing it and sanding it down, getting it ready. And then we got to find some sort of way to seal it once it's lasered to keep it from drying out anymore or cracking anymore from what it already is in the drying process. So woodworking part of it is going to be the labor intensive part. So I'm going that's the hard
part for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a chainsaw, so we can cut some rounds somewhere. But, lately we've been trying to chainsaw them as smooth as possible and sanding it by hand. Or I have a friend that has a planer, but I don't want to continue to bother him to use the planer all the time. So, yeah, that's our more difficult side of things.
Yep. So if we have a listener in the NorCal area that would like to take on some volunteering tasks of cutting up the wood and planing it and sanding it down, then we could pump out some of these rounds with different trail designs on them in order to be kind of like a permanent fundraiser for trail advocacy organizations.
Yeah, I think that's rad.
So if anybody wants to do that or has expertise in doing that, or is somebody that's like, yeah, that takes you 5 minutes to do, whereas it takes me and Jimmy an hour to 2 hours to do, let us know. We're interested. So anyways, the raffle went great. It was really cool to see all the donations that came in and the people that were spending money on tickets. This year, the raffle raised $34,000.
Wow.
For Cal4.
That's awesome.
Yep. It was really neat. And the registrations alone raised, I think they had close to 800 people registered for the event, and that's including the volunteers and committee registrations as well. So I think last year it was, 400 to 450, something like that. So they almost doubled the registration this year.
Dang,
which is pretty cool
to them. So this is probably the highest grossing Sierra Trek
in a while. It's definitely not the highest grossing. They used to have, Sierra Treks where there was 2,000, 3,000 people coming out to Medow Lake.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So this is not, the biggest in history, but it's the biggest one in quite a while.
This biggest one to recent date.
Yeah. So kudos to John and Rene for having a very successful Sierra Trek. Sunday, yes, the studio audience approves. Sunday was pretty much just tear down and get out of there. So, there's nothing really there going on Sunday. I did have, while we were tearing down the communications and Morphlay booth, a lady came up to us and said, "Hey, I need to figure out how to tell AAA where I am." And I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's an easy problem. What's going on though? Let's see if we can solve your problem.
I have a dead battery.
Yeah. Their Raptor, F-150 Raptor was not starting. It was cranking, but it didn't seem like anything was happening after that.
Okay.
And so immediately, and just because they had a 2013 F-150 Raptor, and I have a 2014 F-150. Not a Raptor though. But I know that my generation of F-150 has a very well-known fuse issue on the fuel pump.
Oh.
It just blows that fuse.
Interesting.
And so it's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's when it will happen. My truck has not had it happen yet. But I asked him immediately, I was like, it sounds like you're just maybe not getting fuel to the engine. Have you guys already changed out the fuel pump fuse and redid the fuel pump circuit? And they're like, no, why would we do that? And I was like, oh, yeah, there's a known issue, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, how do we know which one is the fuel pump? And I was like, well, you pull the fuse box, which is right there on top of your radiator, and you look at the diagram and figure out which number correlates to the fuel pump circuit. And they didn't know how to figure that out or anything. And so I was like, you know what? Let me finish packing up here. Then I'll come out to you guys and we'll see if it's that or something else. We might be able to do some diagnostics and get you running. I don't know. And so I went out there and yep, sure enough, their fuel pump fuse. I opened up the fuse box and one of the fuses was popped and a little burnt inside. And I was like, that one probably right there is probably your fuel pump fuse. And so I had internet because I have AT&T and looked it up, and sure as hell, that fuse was the fuel pump fuse. So we pulled that fuse, replaced it with another one that I had, and cranked right over and started no problem.
Nice.
So superhero Tyler to save the day.
Whoop, whoop.
Got an F-150 Raptor running on my way out.
Nice job.
And then also on my way out, there was an RV stopped on the side of the road, and an older gentleman, might have been in his 80s.
On the Medow Lake Road, on the dirt road? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, on Medow Lake Road. He was at least in his 70s, might have been in his 80s.
Wow.
And he had a bar, it almost looked like a bottle jack lever handle, right?
Okay.
And he had it, and he was kind of like standing there next to the rig looking confused and a little defeated. And so I pulled over real quick. I was like, is everything all good, man? And he goes, yeah, I've got a rock stuck between my tires on the dually on his RV. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Well, let's see what we can do to get it out here. So I pulled over, and he had a fucking rock stuck. It was like the size of a watermelon.
Oh, wow.
Jammed up there between his dually tires. I couldn't get it out by hand. I couldn't get it out by prying it. I pulled out my big pry bar out of the rig. Couldn't get it out doing that way. And so right about that time, I'm like, we're going to have to pull this out with a vehicle or a winch or something. I was like, manual levers are not working. And right about that time, his wife shows up in a Chevy Colorado ZR2. And I was like, perfect. There's a recovery point right there on the front of that. I was like, do you guys have a strap? If not, I've got one in my truck. We can pull it out. But if you have a strap, then we can just strap it to the truck and pull it out that way. I was also looking at ways to run a ratchet strap to a cross member somewhere on his frame and pulling it out that way. But when the truck pulled up, I was like, sweet, we'll just pull it out with the truck. And so pulled it out, and the truck pulled out no problem. But like when the rock popped out, I was like, damn, that's a big ass rock to have stuck in between your tires. Like I didn't realize it was that big.
Wow.
So
I was thinking, I wonder if you could somehow drive over like your crowbar or whatever. So like if you had it so that the rock was about to go underneath the wheel or underneath the tire, and then you shoved like the crowbar in between the tires
and
then you drove wheel forward so that the crowbar wouldn't be able to rotate. It would pry itself down on the ground. If you continued to drive forward, it would maybe pull the rock out that way.
You would have to do it so that the crowbar is on the back side of the wheel so that the rock is hitting the crowbar on its way up in rotation. And you'd have to have the crowbar would have to get stuck between the dually hub, the wheel hub there at the dually, and the body of the RV.
No, 180 degrees. So you have it stuck between the rock and the dually wheel and pushing on the ground.
The crowbar?
Yeah.
But
it's
as
the same thing, just a different... instead of coming up and hitting the RV, it goes all the way around and hits the ground.
Yeah, but the rock is going to rotate away from the crowbar if you're going forward.
But that you have to get the crowbar far enough. You have to get it pinched between the rock and the hub, the wheel, and then the ground will push it down.
Oh, I see. So you put the rock up on top of the wheel and then throw the crowbar in there.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So anyways, I wonder if there was a method that way that might have been able to get it out.
Probably.
Anyway,
I don't know
you
if
got it out.
I don't know if I had a rod that long though.
No, you don't have one that long.
I know. Well, that's my problem in life.
You need that extendable gear wrench one.
I know. That's in my toolbox at home. Saved them, got their rock out, got them moving on their way. And then from there, it was just a matter of going out Truckee and then going back up Rattlesnake Road.
Oh.
Because I had to go get the repeater.
Right.
So Morphlate Sean came with me and we took his dad's Jeep down committee to the repeater, picked up the repeater, drove back up, put it in my truck, and then went back and picked up the trailer at the Chevron and then went home.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a short trip for me this year, but it was fun just seeing everybody and getting out there and hanging out. And I had some fun on Friday night and was sort of feeling it on Saturday morning. So I wasn't going to go large on Saturday because I was considering leaving and just beating the mass exodus after the raffle or on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Because I've always found it best if you're going to leave on Sunday, you might as well wait till 2.
Yeah, pretty much. Once
you stop seeing cars going down the line continuously, you just kind of, you either wait or you get in that line. And I chose just to beat all the lines combined. So.
I was impressed coming out. Anybody that was holding up traffic was really good about getting out of the way and letting all the traffic by. So like the solo rigs would just, go by without any issues. But like if a motorhome had to pass a motorhome or a trailer, blah, 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 everybody was really good about if somebody was on their tail for more than 5 minutes, they're really good about pulling over and letting everybody by. So that was really impressive.
That's good.
It was a fun event. I had a great time. Working in recovery is something I absolutely love doing. And so being able to run communications and make sure that all the communications were taken care of while doing recovery stuff was a lot of fun for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think you just need to figure out if that worked well for the group, and then see if you can do that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was congratulations again to John and Rene Allen. You guys put on a successful event. That was a lot of fun. Glad to be a part of it or be up there as an attendee and excited for next year.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to next year. As always, it's a fun trip, fun event. And next year will be John and Rene's last year doing it. So I'm curious to see, what they do, how they do with it, what they change about next year to make the event bigger and better. Cause I know that is something they are both very passionate about, is making that event everything that it can be. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's all I got for Sierra Trek.
Yeah, me too as well. We do have some fun stuff coming up in our timeline schedule. We've just actually finished Rubathon. And so we'll be covering some of that events coming up here soon. And if you want to get a hold of us, if you have any suggestions for Tyler's communication, or you had another question about something, didn't you?
Another term for boofing.
Maybe that was it. You can get a hold of us, Jimmy or Tyler, at snailtrail4x4.com. You can find us on Instagram, snailtrail4x4 I look over, and 4x4 Toyota Tyler is Tyler's. You can always call in 916-345-4744 or hit us up on irate 4x4 and you can tag us there or comment on anything that's going on or get in for what did we call it? Corey's storage. What was it?
Corey's storage locker clean out.
It's Corey's storage locker clean out tool extravaganza. Items for the month of September. You can check out all that information on iRate 4x4.
Awesome, man. That's all we got. I don't think there was any new pucks this week from Rubathon.
Not from me.
Not from me either. I know that there's a couple out on the trail right now, though.
Oh.
So if anybody is in that area or running Rubicon anytime, there's still a few on the trail. Yeah, that's it, man. Any final words for everybody?
I think going to events like this is a real benefit for the overall culture of 4x4, and you get an understanding of trails, and you can get guided tours of trails. It also is a massive benefit to organizations that they are supporting. So go find an event and go out and have some fun.
I like it. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Ready, bro.
Why do mermaids wear seashells?
To cover the nips.
Because they outgrew their bee shells.
I like that one. That's a good one. I'll give you that one.